The awakening of Terra's might. The crystalline spires of Glaxer Prime reflected the light of three suns, casting rainbow patterns across the imperial throne room. Emperor Vorthek XII reclined on his obsidian seat, his four arms draped lazily over the armrests as his compound eyes surveyed the holographic map before him. 217 star systems glowed with the purple hue of Glaxorian dominance, while a single blue dot pulsed at the edge of the spiral arm. "The humans have responded to our ultimatum, Supreme One," announced Chancellor Krex, bowing until his elongated skull nearly touched the floor. "They request negotiations." Vorthek's mandibles clicked in amusement. Negotiations. These primitives who've barely mastered fusion power dare to negotiate with the masters of the galaxy. His laughter echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. What could they possibly offer us that we couldn't simply take? They claim to have something called cultural diversity and diplomatic solutions. "Your Magnificence," Krex replied, struggling to keep contempt from his voice. They seem to believe these concepts have value. The Emperor rose from his throne, all 12 feet of his armored form towering over his subordinates. "Very well. Send an envoy. Let them witness the might of our empire firsthand. Perhaps seeing our grand armada will convince them that submission is their only option." 3 months earlier, humanity had made first contact with the Glaxorian Empire. The initial exchanges had been cordial, even hopeful. Earth's United Nations had assembled their finest diplomats, scientists, and cultural experts to greet these new neighbors among the stars. Ambassador Sarah Chen had led the delegation aboard the human diplomatic vessel Harmony, carrying offerings of art, music, and scientific knowledge. The Glaxorians had accepted these gifts with barely concealed disdain. Their technology surpassed humanity's by centuries, their ships dwarfed human vessels, and their empire spanned vast reaches of space. To them, humans were merely another primitive species to be cataloged and conquered. "Your world possesses significant mineral resources," Fleet Commander Zexus had informed Ambassador Chen during their final meeting. "The Empire requires these materials. You have 1 solar rotation to evacuate your population centers. We will begin extraction procedures thereafter." Chen had maintained her composure despite the shock. "Surely there must be room for negotiation. Earth is our home." "Was your home," Zexus corrected. "The Empire has spoken. Comply or face obliteration." That meeting had ended humanity's innocence about their place in the galaxy. But it had also awakened something else, something the Glaxorians, in their arrogance, had failed to recognize. Humans possessed a quality that transcended technological advancement. Adaptability forged in the fires of countless conflicts throughout their history. Deep within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, hidden from prying sensors by the natural interference of tumbling rocks and cosmic radiation, humanity began its greatest project. The Forge Initiative, as it came to be known, represented the combined efforts of every nation, every scientist, and every engineer Earth could muster. Dr. James Okafor, formerly a theoretical physicist at CERN, stood before a gathering of the world's brightest minds in the hollowed-out interior of asteroid Ceres. "The Glaxorians believe their technological superiority makes them invincible," he began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "They're wrong. Their empire grew through intimidation and overwhelming force against lesser civilizations. They've never faced an opponent who could think asymmetrically." The holographic display behind him showed captured scans of Glaxorian technology. Their shields operate on predictable harmonic frequencies. Their weapons, while powerful, follow standard particle physics. Their faster-than-light drives create detectable ripples in space-time. Every strength they possess carries an exploitable weakness. General Maria Rodriguez, Earth's newly appointed Supreme Military Commander, stepped forward. "Dr. Okafor's team has made breakthroughs that shouldn't have been possible for another century. Sometimes, having your back against the wall produces miracles." She activated another display, revealing schematics that made even the seasoned scientists gasp. Project Shadowfleet, using quantum entanglement principles and dark matter manipulation. We've developed cloaking technology that doesn't just hide our ships, it removes them from conventional spacetime until the moment of activation. The design showed sleek vessels unlike anything humanity had built before. No longer constrained by atmospheric considerations, these ships were pure instruments of war. Angular, efficient, and bristling with weapons inspired by humanity's darkest imaginations. We're not just copying their technology, Dr. Okafor continued. We're creating something entirely new. Quantum shift drives that don't leave ripples. Directed singularity weapons that bypass shields entirely. And most importantly, networked AI systems that can coordinate thousands of ships as a single entity. The work continued in absolute secrecy. While Earth's visible defenses remained pathetically inadequate by Glaxorian standards, humanity poured its resources into the forge. Automated factories worked tirelessly, consuming asteroids and transforming them into warships. Every person on Earth contributed, whether they knew it or not. Artists designed psychological warfare protocols. Historians studied the patterns of fallen empires. Gamers tested battle simulations. Humanity's greatest strength, their diversity of thought, became their secret weapon. As the deadline approached, Emperor Vorthek surveyed his assembled fleet above Earth. 12,000 vessels, each capable of devastating entire continents, formed perfect geometric patterns against the stars. The human fleet, a pitiful collection of 30 converted cargo ships and obsolete warframes, huddled near their planet like frightened prey. This is almost disappointing, Vorthek mused from his flagship's command throne. I had hoped for at least token resistance. Signal all commands. Begin the. Space itself seemed to scream. Reality tore open in 1,000 places simultaneously as humanity's true fleet emerged from quantum shadow space. Not hundreds of ships, not thousands, hundreds of thousands. They appeared not just around Earth, but throughout the Glaxorian battle formation, their dark hulls drinking in starlight like wounds in space. The Emperor's compound eyes widened in disbelief as his tactical displays overloaded, trying to process the impossible sight. These weren't the crude vessels his scouts had reported. These were nightmares given form, ships that seemed to violate the very laws of physics his empire had mastered. Admiral Jessica Thompson's face appeared on every Glaxorian display simultaneously, her expression carved from stone. Emperor Vorthek. I am Admiral Thompson of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our world with threats and demands. You saw our restraint as weakness. That was your first mistake. The human ships began to move, not in the rigid formations the Glaxorians expected, but in fluid, organic patterns that seemed to predict and counter every tactical response before it could be executed. Their weapons charged with energies that shouldn't exist, aimed with precision that suggested impossible levels of coordination. Your second mistake, Thompson continued, was assuming that a species who survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars would simply roll over when threatened. We've spent our entire history learning to punch above our weight class. And now, Emperor, you're about to learn why humanity's first response to any existential threat is not surrender, it's innovation. The quantum arrays on the human ships began to pulse in synchronization, creating a resonance that made space itself sing with deadly harmony. In his throne room light years away, Emperor Vorthek felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of conquest. Fear, the thunder of retribution. The bridge of the Glaxorian flagship Eternal Dominion erupted in chaos as impossible readings flooded every sensor array. Emperor Vorthek gripped his command throne with all four arms as his officers scrambled to make sense of the tactical situation. Impossible. Science Officer Turex's voice cracked with disbelief. These energy signatures, they're manipulating quantum fields at a level we've only theorized about. Their ships aren't just cloaked. They exist in a state of quantum superposition until the moment of materialization. Admiral Thompson's image remained steady on the main view screen, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the panic spreading through the Glaxorian fleet. Behind her, the bridge of the human flagship Prometheus hummed with quiet efficiency. "You have 10 of your time units to withdraw all forces from human space," Thompson stated. "This is not a negotiation." Vorthak's mandibles ground together in rage. "You dare threaten the Glaxorian Empire? We have conquered entire sectors. We have weapons that can crack planets." "Yes," Thompson replied, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "We know. We study your conquests quite thoroughly. The Villari homeworld. You bombed them into submission after 3 days. The Kethan colonies, overwhelmed by superior numbers. The Zephyr Confederation, forced to surrender when you captured their capital. Always the same pattern. Overwhelming force against unprepared civilizations." She leaned forward slightly. "But you see, Emperor, humans have a saying. If you want peace, prepare for war. We've been preparing since the moment your ambassador delivered your ultimatum. And we've learned something interesting about your empire. You've never actually fought a real war. You've only conducted executions." The human fleet began to move with impossible coordination. Ships that had appeared randomly scattered throughout the Glaxorian formation suddenly revealed their true positions. They had emerged in perfect tactical formations, surrounding every major Glaxorian vessel with overlapping fields of fire. "All human vessels," Thompson's voice carried across the quantum communication network. "Execute Protocol Thunderstrike." Space erupted with violence, unlike anything the Glaxorians had ever witnessed. Human weapons didn't just attack ships. They attacked the fundamental forces holding them together. Directed singularity projectors created microscopic black holes inside enemy shields, bypassing them entirely. Quantum destabilizers caused portions of Glaxorian vessels to phase out of existence. Probability weapons altered the quantum states of critical systems, causing them to fail in cascading sequences. But it wasn't just the weapons that terrified the Glaxorians. It was the tactics. Human ships moved like predators, using maneuvers that seemed to predict Glaxorian responses before they were made. The humans fought with a fluidity and adaptability that spoke of countless generations of warfare, refined, and evolved into something approaching an art form. Commander Zexus watched in horror as his prized dreadnought Worldender came under attack from a human wolf pack. 6 smaller vessels working in perfect coordination. They struck from multiple angles simultaneously, their weapons configured specifically to exploit the dreadnought's known weaknesses. "How?" Zexus gasped as his ship's main reactor began to destabilize. "How do they know our vulnerabilities?" The answer came from Earth's command center, where thousands of humans worked in vast holographic chambers. Military historians, game theorists, psychologists, and strategists had spent months analyzing every scrap of data about Glaxorian tactics and technology. They had found patterns, weaknesses, psychological blind spots that the Empire's enemies had never lived long enough to exploit. "The Glaxorians are hierarchical to a fault," Dr. Sarah Park explained to her tactical team. "They can't conceive of distributed command structures. Hit their command ships, and entire formations fall apart." Her analysis proved devastatingly accurate. As human strike groups systematically targeted Glaxorian command vessels, entire sections of the Imperial fleet began to falter. The rigid command structure that had served the Empire so well against lesser opponents became a critical weakness against an enemy that fought with networked intelligence. But humanity's greatest psychological weapon was yet to come. Emperor Vorthak. Admiral Thompson's voice cut through the chaos of battle. "I want you to understand something. Every ship in our fleet is crewed by volunteers. Every human who stands against you chose to be here. Not because they were conscripted or threatened, but because they decided that some things are worth fighting for. Can you say the same about your forces?" The question hit home with devastating accuracy. The Glaxorian Empire maintained control through fear and dominance. Their subject species served because they had no choice. But humans were fighting for their home, their families, their very right to exist as a free species. This difference became apparent as the battle progressed. Human crews pushed their ships beyond safe limits, performed maneuvers that defied self-preservation, and fought with a ferocity that transcended mere training. They weren't just following orders. They were fighting for something they believed in. Detecting massive quantum flux from Sector 7, a Glaxorian sensor officer reported. The humans are. They're linking their ship's quantum cores. Thompson nodded to her command staff. Execute final protocol. Show them what humanity is truly capable of. Across the battlefield, thousands of human ships began to synchronize their quantum fields, creating a resonance pattern that grew exponentially with each edition. The very fabric of space-time began to vibrate as humanity's fleet became a single, unified weapon system. The Glaxorian ships, designed to fight conventional battles against conventional enemies, had no defense against what came next. The combined quantum field created a wave that swept through the Imperial fleet, momentarily phase-shifting every Glaxorian vessel into quantum uncertainty. For a terrifying instant, the aliens experienced existence as probability rather than certainty, a state their minds could barely comprehend. When the wave passed, every weapon on every Glaxorian ship was temporarily disabled, their quantum states scrambled beyond immediate repair. Emperor Vorthak stared at his helpless fleet, his compound eyes reflecting the light of human ships that now held complete tactical superiority. His empire's greatest armada, the force that had conquered hundreds of worlds, lay defenseless before a species they had dismissed as primitive. Now, Admiral Thompson said, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's collective decision, we will demonstrate the difference between strength and wisdom. The human fleet held its fire. Vorthak waited for the killing blow that never came. Around him, his officers looked on in confusion as human ships began to reconfigure their formations, creating safe corridors through which the Glaxorian vessels could retreat. We could destroy you, Thompson continued. Every analysis shows we have that capability. Your fleet is helpless. Your empire's core worlds are within our strike range. We could end the Glaxorian Empire today. She paused, letting the words sink in. But that would make us no better than you. Humanity didn't build this fleet for conquest. We built it for defense, and now that we've demonstrated our capability to defend ourselves, we offer you a choice. A new image appeared on Glaxorian displays, a document in multiple languages, including perfectly translated Glaxorian. A treaty of mutual respect and non-aggression. Your empire keeps its current territories, but expansion through conquest ends today. In return, humanity offers something your empire has never had: a peer, an equal, someone to challenge you to grow through cooperation rather than domination. The bridge of the eternal dominion fell silent. Emperor Vorthak, who had never contemplated defeat, found himself facing something even more unsettling: mercy from those he had considered inferior. Why? He finally asked. Why show restraint when you hold supremacy? Thompson's expression softened slightly. Because, Emperor, humanity learned something from our own violent history. The strongest empires aren't built on fear and conquest. They're built on mutual respect and cooperation. We're offering you a chance to evolve, just as we did. The choice is yours. 3 days later, in the ruins of their pride but not their empire, the Glaxorians signed the Treaty of New Beginnings. It marked not just the end of humanity's first interstellar conflict, but the beginning of a new age in galactic politics. The empire that had thought itself invincible learned perhaps the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use it. And sometimes, the most primitive species can teach the most advanced civilizations what it truly means to be civilized. As human and Glaxorian ships departed the battlefield side by side, neither as conqueror nor conquered but as cautious equals, the galaxy witnessed the birth of a new order. One built not on the ruins of the old, but on the foundation of something entirely new: hope that different species could find strength in their differences rather than conflict. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the stars that had almost been humanity's grave become instead the doorway to their future. Send a message to Earth. she ordered. Tell them their children will inherit the stars, but they'll share them with friends we haven't made yet. In the depths of space, humanity's hidden fleet began to power down its weapons, but its crews remained vigilant. They had learned the cost of being unprepared, and while they chose peace, they would never again mistake kindness for weakness. The galaxy would remember this day not as humanity's revenge, but as humanity's invitation, an invitation to grow beyond what any civilization had been before. The Empire had expected annihilation and received enlightenment instead. In showing mercy to their enemy, humanity had perhaps achieved the greatest victory of all. They had changed the very nature of how civilizations would interact among the stars. As the Prometheus jumped to quantum speed, heading home to a world that would never again stand defenseless, Thompson allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had faced its first great test among the stars and had proven something remarkable. That evolution wasn't just about technology or power. Sometimes, it was about choosing to be better than your enemies expected, better than even you thought possible. The stars awaited, full of challenges and wonders yet unknown. But humanity would face them not alone, but as part of something greater. A galactic community built on respect rather than fear, cooperation rather than conquest. The age of empires built on violence was ending. The age of civilizations built on wisdom had just begun. And in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to breathe a little easier, as if it too had been waiting for someone to show that there was another way. The war was over. The future had just started.